Welcome back to Pleasure Principles, the podcast where we explore what it really means to live a life filled with love, magic, and purpose. I'm your host Avik, and today's episode is practically ripped from the pages of a fairy tale. So, we are talking about love, synchronicity, and the kind of miracles that leave you in awe. Imagine, meeting the love of your life in a magical beach encounter, and then finding out your names fit together like a puzzle pieces, like Payne and Makepeace. So, what are the odds, right? So, my guest today is someone who embodies this magic every day, Elizabeth Makepeace. So, welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
It's such a pleasure to be here, Avik. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Lovely. So, Elizabeth, before we start, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all of our listeners. Dear listeners, Elizabeth, she is a healer, an alchemist, and the creator of the Ascendance Code, which blends 25 years of healing work with higher self wisdom to help people align with their true essence. So her life has been a series of miraculous experiences, like from healing a 15-centimeter thyroid of her own to breezing through brain surgery, all while manifesting abundance and love. So, Elizabeth, it's such an honor to have you here today, and I can't wait to, and ready to definitely share your magic for sure.
Looking forward to it.
Lovely. So, I do really love it, the fairy tale love story. So you met the love of your life at the beach, and it what sounds like pure magic. I mean, if you can tell us what happened.
Yeah, it was such a beautiful encounter, and as you were saying in my beautiful introduction, it was so lovely to have that reflected back. My life has been full of synchronicities and really interesting experiences from, spiritually waking up around about 27 years ago now.
Okay.
And when I first started, I didn't know what I was doing. And so, I called out to the universe and sort of asked, am I on the right path and working for the right side and all of those things. And as directly as I asked for that, I got 3 shooting stars just right in front of me as I was looking up at this beautiful, star-drenched sky. And those sort of things have just continued to happen. So when, the day that I met Tim, I was online. I was just, doing my normal day. I think I was doing a training and online, and it had been a huge day. And I lived at the beach. So I had this moment, just go and make some food and then just jump into bed. I was exhausted. And I thought, no, I'm just go down to the beach and get my feet wet, ground for a little while. And then I'll make some food and jump into bed. So I went down the beach, thought I was the only one there. It was a beautiful, isolated beach, and the waves were huge. So I was doing, as you do when you're in business, I was doing a Facebook Live and showing everyone how big the waves were. And this guy walks past. And normally when anyone, walks past, or when I'm doing my own thing online, I don't interact. But there was this moment on the actual live where you can see that I waved back at him because he waved at me.
Oh.
So, so he kept on walking, and on his end, he said he sort of stopped and turned around like, who on earth is that? Like, he'd never seen me on the beach before.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd moved in September and this was in January. And so from his end, he said he got to the end of the beach and he just kept on getting this thing to come back. And yeah, so he came back. We started talking. I'd finished the live by that stage. And we started talking and yeah, just clicked straight away and felt really comfortable with him very, straight away, and found out we lived in adjacent streets and we both loved, taking doing photography and sunsets and sunrises and waterfalls and all of the things. And yeah, and then I discovered, so my maiden name used to be Payne, Payne, and it was a couple of days later that I realized, I looked on social media and saw that his last name was Makepeace. And I was like, who puts their name as Makepeace when they're a normal person, But yeah, it's truly his last name. It comes from England, and I think it's got something to do with knights way back in the day. So those are the sort of things that happen when you are completely aligned with the universe and what the universe has to offer you. When you're really connected in with more than just this limited little body, this little self that we think is separate from the world. We aren't. We are actually completely connected. We are an aspect of the whole. And when we line that up, then all of the magic can come into our life.
Right. Understood. And like you mentioned, when you realized your last names, Pain and Makepeace, fit together so perfectly, so did you take it as a sign from the universe that this was meant to be?
That's a really great question, because I've had so many synchronicities and like all sorts of things, from moving from Oleander Street to Oleander Drive. I could just go on and on and on telling you how the universe works for me and how, houses and cars. I've had cars and houses where, everything just lines up. I once got a car. I was living up in Cairns and I came down to Sydney. So I'm in Australia. Cairns is at the very top of the
Okay.
country, the country. And Sydney is, in a totally different state. And I won't go through the whole story, but I came down to Sydney to get a car. And when I got this car, um, the woman lived in Cairns Avenue. Her surname was the same as my stepfather's, and I was going to buy a car previous to this, and it fell through. Well, she lived in the same block of flats as the guy I was going to buy the first car from, except like she was in 16 and he was in 19. So even the 6 and the 9 flipped. So I have these sort of things happen all the time. And yet you can go through life and go, oh, this is how it works for me, and have those moments where you just line up and go, oh, this is a sign, and so I'm going to follow it. There's a little bit of a challenge with that, because then you're giving your power away to those signs, to the universe, and not actually being a co-creator with the universe. So when I met Tim, to tell you the honest truth, I didn't even consider him being a partner. He was just a guy I was meeting on the beach. And this is why I say it's a fairy tale, because, fairy tales aren't happily ever after from the very start of the fairy tale, or no one would want to read it, right? Because everyone sort of knows what's going to happen, and so it takes away the the pleasure, the juiciness, the magic of the story. So when I first met Tim, I just saw him as a guy that I knew on, that I'd met on the beach. And when I first met him, some of the things that he was sharing with me weren't necessarily, I was like, I'm a spiritual woman. I'm an intuitive empath. My whole business is around energy and spirit and all of those things. And he was, like presented as a muggle when, if you want to use Harry Potter as a analogy, right? And so I really didn't consider him to be someone that I would fall in love with, or that he was going to be my partner. When I saw the Makepeace, I thought, oh, that's amazing. They're the sort of things that happen for me. But I also am aware that I'm in this game. It's not letting the universe take control, and then I've got no choice in the matter. I know that when I see something like that, I can say yes or no to it. In fact, one of the things that actually happened to me once before I moved down here, I was living in Sydney looking after my mum. And when I decided to move down, I literally just turned 50, and I decided I was going to move down. I live in Shell Cove, which is New South Wales, so it's an hour and a half down south from Sydney.
Mhm.
And I see this rental down this way. I just turned 50, and the rental was 50 Elizabeth Street, and I can't remember the suburb now. And I just went, oh, this is how the universe works for me. This must be my house. I just have to put an application in and off I'll go, right?
Yeah.
So I went on and I couldn't find the application form. So, it was a Sunday, tried everything I could, woke up, rang up on Monday to find out that house had already been, the applications had closed. And at the time, it was just on the outskirts of, the pandemic and everything that had happened. And so there was hundreds of applications. And so I was like, no, you don't understand. This is my house. I was trying to explain to the real estate that, this is the way the universe works for me, right? That they were saying, no, it's closed. You can't do anything about it. I even asked them to ask the owner and explain, right? But then I realized that I had got myself into a pattern of thinking, this is the way I create. And I create things outside of that magic, outside of that formula as well. And so I was like, this was one of those moments of, just checking in with myself, that to see that I'm not getting caught up with just this magic formula that happens to me, that there are other ways, And so yeah, when I did see it as a sign, but when I met Tim, but I also knew that I needed to be in control of it as well. I had to make the choice to say yes or no to this sign. I needed to, put my feet in the game, really, and make the decision as to whether I was going to say yes or no to this opportunity, and ended up saying yes.
Exactly. I totally understand. So, so, I mean, in your healing work, you talk about releasing the limitations that come from the illusion of separation. So, what does that illusion look like in everyday life? And how does it hold us back?
So the illusion is the everyday life. What happens is, I'll give you a little bit of a story. So our soul comes down just as a premise, right? The soul's in this beautiful place where it can create whatever it wants, and it decides that it wants to experience being physical. So it comes down, it makes a decision, it chooses its parents based on genetics and what it is that it wants to experience. And so it comes into a physical form. And all of us, when we're born, however you're born, all of us have our umbilical cord cut, and all of a sudden we feel separate, and we are separate. There's this little baby that now is experiencing separation. So all of a sudden, like before in the womb, you know, everything was provided for you. You didn't even have to breathe, right? Like everything was done and you just had to be. But now the umbilical cord has been cut. You have to survive. You've got to have food that's provided to you external. You've got warmth. You've got love. You've got, nurturing and air that has to come in from external. And so now there's this, you're influenced by the outside world and you're developing your unconscious. So your unconscious starts developing in the last quarter of gestation and really develops the most 0 to 3. So from 0 to 3, we have the same brainwave frequency as if we were being hypnotized. They say children are like little sponges. Well, they are, because in the first, few years, we are being developed to understand how to survive. And so we're not just taking in the little things like how to walk and how to, make eye contact and how to speak whatever language, depending on, for me, it was English. So my mouth, I watched, the other people around me, observed how the mouth moves and the muscles move to create the sounds and the vowels of English. We're also watching how to smile and how to interact. How do men and women interact? How do they respond or react to money or relationships or other people, the community? And so we're learning all of these things from our environment, and they're locking into our unconscious, because our unconscious is developing almost like the program of who we are here in this physical body. And so here we are in this physical body, and we're going, okay, so in this family, I'm allowed to run amok, right? I'm allowed to do whatever I want. Or in this family, it's very strict and I've got to ask permission or whatever. And I use this example. So, you're a little baby and you've just started working out how to crawl, and you find this thing on the floor that everyone calls a fork, and you go, I'm going to see if it fits in that hole in the wall, because you're curious, you're adventurous, you've got, all this excitement about life. So off you toddle and go over to this thing in the wall, and you go to stick this fork in this hole, and some hand comes down and either smacks you or reefs you away, or, something happens and you're scolded for, you're a bad girl or you're a bad boy or don't do that. And, in this fear, and you go into shock, and no one's told you we're trying to keep you alive, that there's electricity in that hole. No one's told you that. You have all of a sudden just had this shock of, I shouldn't be adventurous because I'm going to get punished for it. So, enough times that happens, and all of a sudden now you're making a definition about yourself that, oh, I'm not good enough to be adventurous or to be curious. And so now that locks into your neural pathways, your brainwave frequencies go, this is the way it is. And now the unconscious goes, don't be adventurous, don't be curious because it's unsafe. So now that's developed, and the unconscious doesn't want you to change because it's locked in this particular definition, this label. And you've grown up to 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, and the unconscious has still got that pattern, but it's been there for so long and it's running in the background silently. So here you are with your conscious wanting to grow and expand and change a career, or, go on an adventure around the world, or meet the love of your life, or whatever it is. And, the conscious wants us to change. It wants us to grow and have adventure. But if you've got this program running in the background saying it's not safe to do that, then as you have that idea to go on that adventure or change career, within microseconds, it's creating this, software in the background, this information in the background is now going through the memories in minute seconds to see if this is something that is going to be safe or you're going to survive. And so you have a new idea, but within seconds, your unconscious is telling you why you shouldn't do it. And so you might not even hear it, but, you have this, doesn't feel right, or, maybe I need to wait until I've got more money, or, maybe I need to do this, maybe I need to do that, maybe I should wait, or it distracts you by scrolling on social media, or, or cleaning the house, or whatever it might be, and you just get stuck in the pattern that you're in because the unconscious is now is 98% of the time in control of your world. So this separation, this daily process that we go in of waking up every morning and getting out of bed and having a shower and brushing our teeth and, combing our hair and all of those things, that's the pattern of the unconscious that dictates how our day is going to be based on the patterns of the past. And so as we move into our day, we do these things without thinking about them anymore. And we also have that running commentary of not being good enough, not being worthy, not belonging, not perfect, insignificant. There's all of these different sabotage beliefs that hold us in this day-to-day pattern instead of listening to that first thought that comes in of, I want to change. I want to meet the love of my life. I want to go down the beach. I want to change career, whatever it might be, and going with that first thought, because that very first thought comes from a higher part of ourselves, which is what I call the superconscious. But this is the higher self, spirit, oneness, all it is, God, whatever you want to, whatever language you want to call it, this infinite intelligence that's way more vast and it's limitless compared to, this little self and this little program that they're running. It's got all the information. And that's where the soul is going, this is what I wanted to experience this life. I wanted to go on adventures. I wanted to meet the love of my life. I wanted to excel in my career. And so the whole process of being here on this planet is to correct the unconscious and to let go of that limitation so that we can just tune in to that bigger part of ourselves that is so vast and is ready for growth and expansion and to hold way more light in our body than we allow if we're just in our separate limited self. It was it was a big explanation, right? But it was a great question.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and your life seems to be filled with synchronities. So whether it's meeting the love of your life or financial abundance, showing up exactly when you need it, how do you recognize these synchronities, and how can we become more aware of them?
The very first thing I'd say is to set the intention to connect with the universe and say, show me these synchronicities, show me the messages that you're putting in my world, because it's all to do with the actual connection between you and your higher self, or you and your superconscious, the light, the creator. So the very first part is to know that this is not something that only, special people can do, is actually available to all of us. And so you have the ability to do this. And intention is a really powerful tool, because as soon as you hold an intention, now you're co-creating and you're collaborating with the universe. So now the universe and you are becoming one. And so as you sit with the intention and just put it out there, show me the signs, the next part is being able to keep your eyes and your ears open and identifying those signs, because it really is a definition, right? Like, yesterday I went out for lunch with a friend, and as we were leaving, I looked down at my phone and it was 111. And I said, oh, it's 111. And she said, oh, that happens to you all the time, right? Well, because somewhere along the line, I saw triple numbers as being a sign from the universe. And so I said yes to that. And so that means that my unconscious and my conscious just naturally align with that. And it means that I just happen to look at the phone exactly when those triple numbers come up. So the more you do that, the more you line up, the more you set the intention, and the more you open your eyes to the possibility and acknowledge them when you see them, the more they start happening. One of the things that I teach my clients is a process called follow the white rabbit, because my whole business is, the theme of my business is based around sort of Alice in Wonderland, the fact that, she went down the rabbit hole into Wonderland, right? So it's sort of like unplugging from the matrix and moving out of this ordinary life into the extraordinary. So when I was explaining these energy threads and, how to follow them, I decided to call it Follow the White Rabbit. Well, lo and behold, a couple of days after I made the decision to say Follow the White Rabbit as part of my theme, I live right at the beach. I live with Tim. We live at the marina now. And just a normal street. I walk to the beach. So, street houses everywhere and all of the things. And the day that, a couple of days after I decided to call it Follow the White Rabbit, every single morning, we wake up and Tim goes into the kitchen and makes us a lemon water. We have lemon water first thing in the morning. Well, this one day, Tim had to create an invoice for work. So I went in at, 5:30 in the morning or whatever it was to make our lemon water. And I look out the window, and here is a hare in the middle of the road, huge. It would have come up to my waist. The ears were massive. A wild hare. Now, I don't know where you are listening from, the audience where it's listening from, but that is extremely unusual in Australia, right at the beach in a suburb street. Like, this wild hare was just in the middle of the road. It stopped. It looked at me. I looked at it for, several seconds. I reckon it was about 30 seconds. I told him. He gets up and he actually took a photo. Just as the hare saw him, he took off, right? But to me, that was one of the confirmations. Well, you're on the right track, because never saw the hare before, never saw it since. And this was just like, what are the odds of a hare being in, a rabbit being in the middle of the road just after I say follow the white rabbit? So, these are the things that can happen to you, right? When you just set the intention, tune in, and then just keep your eyes and ears open.
Exactly. Perfect, lovely, great. And I mean, it's really great about discussion about finding love, definitely. So, Elizabeth, you are truly, I mean, you have truly opened our eyes to the possibilities of love, miracles, and alignment. And your story is the living proof that magic is all around us. And if we are willing to see it, for anyone who is listening, who's feeling inspired, remember that life's synchronicities aren't just accidents, they are the opportunities. So, Elizabeth, where can our listeners connect with you or learn more about the Ascendance Code?
So my website is elizabetheleanor.com, and Eleanor is spelt a little bit different to anywhere else I've seen it, actually. So Eleanor is Elenor. So it's elizabetheleanor.com. I'm on all the socials as Elizabeth Elenor. And yeah, but if you go to my website, you'll be able to access everything from there. So
Lovely. So, and to everyone tuning in, if you have been waiting for a sign to take action on your dreams, maybe this episode is it. And stay open to the magic. Trust your higher self and watch what unfolds. So until next time, this is your host Awake, reminding you to live with love, curiosity, and purpose. And thanks for listening to Pleasure Principles. Till then, thank you so much.